I guess we'll kind of start from the beginning, in that you have run for this seat before and came up just short.
That close.
So what do you think has changed between then and now? What do you think has improved your chances?
Well, there's so much different between 2014, when every district was running, when there were 78 candidates across the city, 6 candidates just in my district, in a gubernatorial race. Now we're in a presidential. There's no other candidates. It's a head-to-head with me and my opponent. And my opponent, instead of just talking about old stuff he said on the news, he now has a voting record that's an embarrassment to the district. So it's an entirely different race. In addition to his record, I have been working hard over the last 2 years, forming community groups, holding town hall events. I even got a road project included in Mayor Adler's transportation bond. It's the type of citizen-led efforts that I've been focused on for the last 2 years that is going to inform the voters better than we were able to inform them 2 years ago.
So you called his voting record a disgrace. Specifically, what can you point to?
Primarily the abstentions. He abstains 10 times more than any other council member, and yet claims to be the voice of something. It's not a voice if you don't vote. And he even abstained on the mayor's transportation bond. To date, has refused to say if he supports or doesn't support the transportation bond. Well, I can tell you that the residents of District 6 have a very clear opinion about traffic, and they don't like it, and they want something to be done about it. And his abstentions record, amongst his behavior on the dais and attacking constituents and being a general embarrassment in the media, his abstentions is really the point where District 6's voice is getting ignored.
Okay, so you mentioned transportation. That is one of the 2 topics people always bring up when you ask them about living in Austin. And transportation's one, and the affordability is the other. So let's start with transportation. What do you suppose we do to fix that?
Well, the first thing we need to do is pass the bond. We need to start getting our infrastructure back up to where we need to be and get over the decades that we've skipped building infrastructure to match our growth. Nobody thinks that this one bond is going to solve all of our problems, but we've got to get to a baseline so we can start planning for the future. And yes, that includes some road projects and sidewalk projects and bike projects and all of the really amazing stuff that's in this bond program, and pedestrian safety, which has been a real problem, not just in Austin as a whole, but in District 6, where we've had motorcycle drivers killed, we've had pedestrians killed. We had a little kid crossing his bike across Spicewood Springs Road, killed by a vehicle. We have to start focusing on these issues, and the bond is the first place to start.
So if we pass this bond, if we expand highways, we do road projects, that all costs money, and it's got to come from taxes or come from somewhere, but yet people in this city already complain of affordability. Does that not just contribute to the affordability problem of owning a home or some kind of place to live in Austin?
Well, affordability is far more complicated than a single bond election. More than half of your property taxes is the school district. The city represents a very small slice, and of that slice, 70% of it is public safety. My opponent is the chair of the Public Safety Committee, yet has held not one meeting about how to reduce the cost of providing public safety in this town, and that represents 70% of the city's general fund. If we want to talk about affordability, we have to focus on where the money's actually being spent, and not just on the rhetoric that my opponent likes to talk.
Do you think we're in a situation in Austin where we need to choose between staying Austin, as they say, and not becoming Houston or Dallas, or becoming more affordable? Is that an either-or proposition?
Of course not. You know, my opponent likes to talk about Houston. He likes to say, oh, we'll just get rid of all the zoning and magically everything will solve itself. Well, I've driven around Houston and seen 40-story buildings right next to single-family homes, and I don't think that's the type of Austin that we want. You know, affordability is a complicated issue. The biggest challenge for renters, which my district is a majority of renters, the biggest challenge is rent increases, which far exceed any increases in property taxes that we've seen.
And so the solution is what?
We have to increase the housing supply. There are so many places in Austin that you don't have to tear down a single family home neighborhood. I mean, just think about North Lamar Airport. You've got this great little Midtown Commons area with restaurants and 3 stories of apartments, and it's right on a train line. And then right across the street, you have rundown strip malls, empty parking lots, 1-story warehouses. We are not utilizing the opportunities that we have to build housing in this town. And when we don't, it's District 6 that suffers, because it's not that it will stop people from coming here. Those people still coming here, but that housing is built in Cedar Park. And then those people in Cedar Park are driving on Austin's roads like Anderson Mill, but not paying the taxes that we need to fix that road.
So then that brings up the issue that we always hear when it comes to this, is the land development code and streamlining it and making it easier for builders to build quicker. If you get elected, and you could wave a wand, what's the first thing you do specifically with the Land Development Code to get stuff built faster?
It's multifaceted. We have to complete Code Next. I intend to lead on the Code Next effort. My opponent has referred to it as Code Never, and that is no way to solve problems in this town. We have to fix the land use code and make it clearer both to homeowners and developers where things are going to go. And then we have to finish fixing the permitting problem and the code enforcement problem that just delays projects. One of the things that makes housing so expensive is that when you build something, it takes 9, 12, 18 months to get through the process, but the person who owns that land is paying mortgage, is paying taxes, is paying for all that time. If we could get stuff built where we know we want stuff built faster, then the housing supply would increase, it would be cheaper to build that housing, and there would be more options for people to live.
This is the solution that everybody gives when asked this question. So then that brings up the other question is, why haven't we done it? Why does it take so long? And what could you do to make those changes happen faster?
It's not the solution that everybody gives. My opponent does not provide this solution. My opponent thinks that the solution to affordability is sprawl, that somehow building new homes all across Williamson County and the outreaches of Travis County doesn't come with a cost to build roads and water pipes and electric lines and all of the other assorted infrastructure. The outer reaches of District 6 knows that they're not getting the services they need from Austin because they're so far from where those services are being provided. We cannot sprawl our way to affordability like my opponent would propose. Nobody is saying that finishing Code Next is going to be easy or that finishing the permitting process is going to be easy, but we have to focus on that being the solution, and we have to work on that together.
Another issue that has come up often here in the city is the ride-sharing companies, the fact that Uber and Lyft are not operating here in the city. Would you be in favor of repealing those regulations that we have in place that Uber and Lyft have objected to and then pulled out of the city because of?
Right. During that debate about ride-sharing regulations, the mayor came up with a compromise, similar to the compromise that they struck in San Antonio. And my opponent and his conservative colleagues had the votes to pass that compromise that would have kept Uber and Lyft in Austin, and they did not do that. They pushed their ideology so hard that we lost 2 innovative companies from Austin. But once those companies decided to push it to the ballot and spent $10 million trying to manipulate a local election, the voters spoke. The voters spoke in support of that ordinance. And I am not one who's going to override the will of the voters in the city of Austin. Again, unlike my opponent who wants to undo our campaign finance laws, who wants to undo this very election, despite the fact that our campaign finance laws were passed by 2 separate charter elections by the voters, and yet he still continues to sue and waste hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars forcing us to defend his crazy lawsuit addiction.
So if you were to get into office, what would be the number one most important thing you think that you could tackle right away?
Well, whenever you ask someone that question, you have to answer traffic first, right? But traffic is a short, middle, and long-term solution that we have to work on. If we want to talk about something that can have an immediate impact, I want to talk about property crime. In my district, we have some of the highest property crime in the city of Austin. But the majority of that property crime are people leaving their car doors unlocked and their garage doors opening and having their property stolen. Right now, we don't get the patrols from APD that you would traditionally think you need to address property crime. But I don't need highly trained badged officers to drive an hour from the Palmer Lane substation all the way out to Lakeline Mall to take a report about someone's laptop being stolen. I say we expand the civilian corps, expand civilian staff at APD, which are cheaper to retain, cheaper to keep, cheaper to find, and use that to buffer up Neighborhood Watch, to do some of the reporting and education in District 6, supporting our district representatives, so that District 6, not unlike my corridor study for Anderson Mill Road, can take charge of our own problems in a fiscally responsible way. That is the solution to property crime.
Last question, because the council all came at the same time and some of them ended up with the draw of straws getting the shorter term, what would you say to someone who says, that your opponent, Mr. Zimmerman, he deserves more time, or he should get more time to work out whatever it is the city needs to work out?
Well, let's look at what he's done in 2 years. As chair of the Public Safety Committee, he has not held a single meeting about how to address property crime in District 6. What he has done is waste our time on fluoride, waste our time on coyote traps. He is not interested in doing work. In fact, what he's interested in is celebrating being the one no vote in a 10-1 vote. Celebrating being on the losing side. And it's not just him that loses. District 6 loses when he leads, tries to lead in that fashion. I want to be on the winning side of a vote. I want to see actual policies passed that benefit the city of Austin, that benefit District 6, even if it takes a 6-5 vote. Because if you can't count to 6, you can't get anything done. And my opponent celebrating being the one no vote is no way to lead.
Jimmy Flannigan, thank you so much. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.